Life has been Hashem. Hashem loves you all. This is Your Creation 13. I'm Adam Sarsi Gay, and today I'm going to read Matthew 23, pretty much the whole thing. I'm going to kind of skim through some things, but you'll get the gist of it, and then I'll talk about it. Then Christ said to the crowds and to his disciples, "The teachers of the law and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. So you must obey them and do everything they tell you. Do not do what they do, but they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy loads and put them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move them. Everything they do is done for men to see. They love the place of honor at banquets and the most important seats in the synagogues. They love to be greeted in the marketplace and to have men call them Rabbi. But you are not to be called Rabbi, for you have only one master, and you are all brothers. And do not call anyone on earth Father, for you have one Father, and he is in heaven. Nor are you to be called Teacher, for you have one Teacher, the Christ. The greatest among you will be your servant, for whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You shut the kingdom of heaven in men's faces. You yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You travel over land and sea to win a single convert, and when he becomes one, you make him twice as much a son of hell as you are. Woe to you, blind guides! You say, if anyone swears by the temple, it means nothing. But if anyone swears by the gold of the temple, he is bound by his oath. You blind fools, which is greater, the gold or the temple that makes the gold sacred? You also say, if anyone swears by the altar, it means nothing. But if anyone swears by the gift on it, he is bound by his oath. You blind man, which is greater, the gift or the altar that makes the gift sacred? Therefore he who swears by the altar swears by it, and by everything on it. And he who swears by the temple swears by it, and by the one who dwells in it. And he who swears by heaven swears by God's throne, and by the one who sits on it. Think about it. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law: justice, mercy, and faithfulness. Very true. You should have practiced the latter later, without neglecting the former. You blind guides, you strain out a knot but swallow a camel. Woe to you, teachers of the law, Pharisees, you hypocrites! You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisees, first clean the inside of the cup and dish, and then the outside also will be clean. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of dead men's bones and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside you appear to people as righteous, but on the inside you are full of hypocrisy and wickedness. Woe to you, teacher of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You build tombs for the prophets and decorate the graves of the righteous. And you say, if we had lived in the days of our forefathers, our ancestors, we would not have taken part with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. So you testify against yourselves that you are the descendants of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of the sin of your forefathers. You snakes, you brood of vipers, how will you escape being condemned to hell? Therefore I am sending you prophets and wise men and teachers. Some of them you will kill and crucify, others you will flog in your synagogues, and pursue from town to town, And so upon you will come all the righteous blood that has been shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, I might got that wrong, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. I tell you the truth, all this will come upon this generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those sent to you, how often I have longed to gather your children together, as hen gathers her chicks under her wings. For you were not willing. Look, your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed. Don't like that word. Anyways, until you is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So yeah, like I said, there's certain words that you have to do research on, but the gist of it is basically towards the end is just letting them know, take heed of the words of Christ. That is basically it. Take heed to the words of Christ. So the main point that I read this is because this is very true for what is been taking place for quite a while now, but you can really see it taking shape and form. And the hypocrite views on how everything is built in the structure of the government or governments around the world, but in governments of America. That is exactly what it is talking about. Because you have to look as a whole, and I've said this throughout all my videos, Babylon is America. It is structured in a way as it was back then in the medieval times. You know, you had your king, you had your queen, you had the laws, you had to follow those laws, and they're man laws, which is what that states. They are man laws, and you have to obey them, or you're going to go to jail, or bad things will happen to you. And it's just kind of how it is. But America kind of is in that state where you can live off the grid. You just got to figure out how. It's learning to be aware of man's laws, but still follow the Most High's laws, which is the most important right now. And that's where I'm going to be talking about in these videos, is realizing the Most High's laws, realizing the spiritual aspect of it, the energy and synergy aspect of it. It's all lost. We got all these churches that were man-made, just like it says in them. We got all these churches that that man say, if you enter into their churches, that you will be saved and you will be purified in his name. And these are words that are coming from a person's mouth, but not from the Most High's mouth. And that's something you really have to be aware and distinguish yourself. People go to church every Sunday, go to church on Wednesdays. They feel that they show humanity or show the people around them that they are spiritual, but do they live that life behind closed doors? Are they what they say they are? And it's the point is that you don't need to judge them for what they do. It's, are they aware of what they are doing? Are they just mindless robots, or are they just going to these either looking for something or just trying to prove themselves to humanity instead of honoring the Most High? That makes sense. You want to honor the Most High. You don't want to honor and please people. You're not here to please people. You're here to to praise the Most High. But it's been lost in translations of how to do that. That's what I'm kind of leading up to. So basically I'm going to cut this kind of short. But the main point that I'm bringing this is to make you aware that as laws change, which there's going to be a lot of changing in the laws, do not lose your faith and trust in the Most High. Now, I've talked about belief and faith, but it's important right now to not lose your faith and trust in the Most High. Do not lose your faith and trust in what Christ has taught you. No matter what religion you may be, Christ's teachings are throughout all the books. Some are encrypted, some are really, really simple and to the point. And that's something that I really want you to sit down, pray, meditate upon, is to focus on the Most High. You don't need to go to church, you don't need to go to an altar, have some kind of object. Remember, it says in there, Christ says, do not kneel or bow down to any false idols. And that is, any kind of image is an idol. And I've said this before, any kind of image is an idol. You have the temple within you. The Most High is within you. Christ's teachings are within you, and you have to go within yourself, praying, meditating, two key things. And I highly encourage you guys to do this. So I hope this makes sense. But yes, so as laws change, because they're going to be changing quite a bit throughout the years, stay very close to the Most High in Christ's teachings. It will help guide you, and it will make this journey a lot smoother than if you weren't following the Most High in Christ. That's a true fact right there. So hopefully you learned something from this. If you have questions, let me know. Yeah, that's it. So love yourself, keep shining bright, and remember, follow the Most High and Christ's teachings, and life will be good. Alright, talk to you in a little bit.